So today I'm sitting down with Amanda Hengst. Amanda works in messaging, copy, and positioning, but really what sets her apart is how grounded she is in truth. She helps founders clean up their messages, stop hiding behind the safe marketing, and build systems that actually sell without losing their humanity. She brings a rare mix of strategic clarity, emotional intelligence, and real life experience into the way that she thinks about business, leadership, and communication. This conversation goes way deeper than just tactics. We're going to talk about honesty in marketing, why most positioning is muddy, how to build content that actually works, and what it really means to lead with integrity as you scale. If you ever felt like you know you're capable of more, but your message hasn't caught up yet, this episode is specifically for you. So, welcome in, Amanda. Thank you so very much for dedicating a little bit of your Saturday with me. And welcome in to the Flourish with Felicity podcast.
Thanks for having me. That's a hell of an intro. It's like, gosh, it's almost like people singing happy birthday to you. You just sit there and you're like,
Yeah, that's me. Hello. Yes, no, I mean, girl, you have done so very much in messaging and copy, especially with the amount of coaches that I work with. That is one of the biggest sticking points is like, how do I message these people? Why am I not getting leads? And there's so much to it that they just don't understand. And I feel like they make it a lot more complex than they actually should be doing. And we'll dive into all of that today. But before we even go into the copy and the messaging, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you even get started in this journey to messaging and copy and building the legacy that you have so far?
yeah, yeah. I got started writing when I was 6 years old, like most most people, right at six.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in an ultra conservative cult. So women aren't really allowed to have opinions and voices. So that forced me to journal quite a bit. So that's honestly where the whole processing part came from, the whole describing emotions and describing events. That was the only thing I had to talk to was that blank page. So that really set me up for success in my future so that when I decided to quit my 9 to 5, it was a very nobody was surprised. Nobody was like, "Oh," and I, like, posted online of, "I'm a writer now." Everyone's like, "Yeah, of course you are. We've seen your stuff. Like, you do write, you do post things." It wasn't a shock to anybody, which made the transition, like, super easy.
Very cool. Very cool. That's very interesting that that's I feel like a lot of people I want to dive into that for a second actually. So a lot of people I feel like take content and they're like they build their own like me and my friends are following me content and then they immediately just start switching into business. How I mean, granted, you already had like warm people in your content. So were you posting like carousels? Were you posting captions? Like how did people know that you already wrote? Like what was that piece there?
I was already doing a lot of, like, vlogging style documents, so that when I just switched from that into, "Oh, I'm running a business," it was just kind of like a normal transition, so I started off in anti-sex trafficking. I had just finished ministry school at Bethel Supernatural School of Ministry in Redding, California. I'd done 3 years
So
of school there, and then I managed their media company for 2
cool.
years. So I was the brand director for all of the church's brands, which was it's a mega church, so there's like 25 of them. And so managing on all their websites and projects and all that good stuff. So that was like a weird little foretelling kind of job that I had. I had no business having that job. It was ridiculous that I was even hired for it. But when I quit or when I came back to Florida, I knew that I wanted to help women who are being abused because
Mm,
I'd been in a previously abusive relationship, and I'm like, "Okay, I can help these people." And the first place I applied to was an organization called Selah Freedom, which is one of the top domestic anti-sex trafficking organizations in the country. And yeah, I went all in. So as with any nonprofit, you work all the positions, you wear all the hats. But I did really well working like in the streets with the women, working undercover. I was an anti gang, Florida gang specialist as well. So working to bust up the gangs because sex trafficking and gangs usually go hand in hand as well. So it
yeah,
was crazy. It was a crazy time. So
I
yeah, I
can
just applied.
there
That's
you
how I got
go.
it.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's such a crazy position to be in, to be a writer for something so extreme,
Mhm.
truthfully. Like, you've probably seen some things that normal people have never seen, and to be able to write that and convey the amount of emotion that you have to be able to convey in a piece of work via
Mhm.
words is very impressive, which makes a lot of sense as to where you've gone into today, where a lot of your back end marketing comes from like the truth and the emotion behind it. Can you tie a little bit about that, like how truth and emotion connect and compare to each other inside of writing and messaging and copy?
I mean, yeah, like it's what keeps us different or keeps us better than AI because there's no emotion in AI, there's no soul to
Mhm.
it. It's
Right?
just a copy and repeat, right? And so when a
Yeah.
human actually creates something, I believe that we're manifesting the divine character of God because only God can create. And so when we
Mhm.
create things, it has a spirit attached to it, and we invite people into that experience that we're writing out of, which makes
Mhm.
it why you cry when you see a movie or you're emotionally moved by artwork or you're like a life change because of a song like this. That's why it affects you so emotionally, is because of that manifestation of creation that we're doing. So I try to be super mindful in my state when I create for the clients because I want to be in the state of the ideal buyer so that I'm writing directly to them.
Mhm.
And so it's almost like method acting in a way. It's kinda weird, but
I
people
love it.
feel that, and it converts way better, and I wish I had a concrete, like, A plus B equals C. That doesn't even make
Yeah.
sense. But, like, it's you have to put yourself emotionally in that space of the person who's buying and also be able to switch over to the person that's selling so that you can play both roles.
Interesting. I wanna ask you a question about that because I know that you're a ghostwriter for many, especially when we were talking on the call for Check-ins Pro, you were talking about how you're a ghostwriter specifically for a lot of men, which I found very interesting, especially because you're a woman, so you're going to naturally, in day-to-day conversation, speak a little bit differently than a man. But with that being said, how do you step into this emotional state of your clientele? That to me, I find so very interesting because you kinda have to, like, manipulate yourself in a sense.
Yeah, so it's not as much as their emotional state because I don't want to be like them. I just want to sound like their ideal buyer. So it's more so stepping into the buyer's emotional state and then feeling that and being like, okay, what do I need right now? And then write myself. But as far as like writing like my clients, it's more technical in that I'm listening to the cadence of their speaking rhythms,
Mhm,
the words they use, keywords, and voice inflection's huge. So Mike mentioned, he said, Amanda says I write weird or communicate weird. What I said to him was, he has a very interesting cadence in how he speaks. And so a lot of times when you're doing public speaking, that's a great way to break someone's frame and recapture their attention, especially people who have weird cadences where they'll pause in areas you don't expect them to, or they'll
mhm.
slow down and speed up. That can be used as a frame break or an intention grabber, and Mike does that. He pauses in very strange places that people don't normally pause. So you're like, "Wait, what are you saying?" You go, wait, what?" And it, like, re-engages you. So it's mostly when I interview clients for books, I interview them, I record them, and I'm transcribing them all at the same time so that
Mm,
I can study their sentence structure and how they speak and copy that sentence structure, that cadence, and that tonality.
yeah, it's funny that you bring up Mike because the amount of times I've accidentally cut him off because he's in the middle of a sentence, but I thought he was done.
Yeah.
What it's like it's a joke across
Yeah.
the board around the team, which is hilarious, but that's so interesting that it's more about the cadence and the structure so that you're speaking as in the emotional state of the client, but you're of the client of the person you're writing for, I should specify here. You're in the emotional state of the buyer, but you're writing like the owner, which is such an interesting, like, middle ground between the 2.
Yeah. So a lot of times they'll be like, that doesn't sound like me," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I don't wanna sound exactly like you."
Mhm.
I do to a degree, but we're also meshing those 2 voices and those 2 needs together.
Mhm.
So, sometimes the client's been like, "That doesn't sound like me." I'm like, "Good, because 'cause you're gonna get a lot more sales because you suck."
Yeah, that's so I have a question about that now. So, when it comes to someone trying to write for themselves, because not everyone is in the ideal spot where they can hire someone like yourself to be able to go and do this for them. How does one, if they want to write their own copy for, let's say, a social media post, or if they are writing their own book, but they want to have some offer grab to it, how do they step into that mindset that you are able to get into when you're writing for these clients of yours?
Usually those individuals are writing to a younger version of themselves. Usually
Mm,
everyone's first book is how they got to where they're at, and they want to
mhm.
help other people do the same. So all they
Yeah.
gotta do is go back like 5 years. Don't go back 10 years, don't go back super far, just go back 2 to 5 years and talk directly to that version of you. And if you do that, you'll be fine. Like, and think about like, okay, what was I able to receive? What was I able to hear in that moment? What did I need in that moment? What would have
Mhm.
accelerated my journey? You know, so you're basically writing to your past self.
Interesting, very much like journaling. I see the
Mhm.
connections now, different
Yeah.
full circle moment. So, one thing that you brought up that you were talking about earlier when you were talking about emotion and truth in marketing, where do you think so I know there's a lot of clients of ours, especially in the fitness space, that they don't feel like they should be like they're okay to post a story about themselves, but they're afraid of sharing and being reckless online. But where do you think people confuse that like honesty and like truth and speaking to their younger selves with just or in comparison to oversharing and being reckless online when it comes to their copy?
It's all about intention. Like, what are you trying
Intention.
to do? Are you
Yeah.
trying to like, so if you stop and say like, what am I trying to get from this?
Mhm.
And it's like, "Oh, cute picture. I just wanted to post it." Or, "Oh, I was feeling, like, grateful about where I came from, and I wanted to communicate that gratefulness." Okay, then you're cool. But if you're posting it to be like, "I'm trying to, you know, manipulate people," which I don't think anybody would think that, or, "I'm trying to get affirmation," or, "I want people to feel sorry for me," or, "I want people to pay me," like, desperation, anything out of fear or lack is going to produce more fear and more lack. It's gonna create more cringe. Anything out of abundance and overflow and gratitude and love is usually going to translate. So, I would just say just check your intention because you're creating out of that, and that's what's going to manifest.
It makes perfect sense too, because it's like it's the when you're reading a caption for any social media post, if you're just doing like market research or just looking to find inspiration, when you read the captions, it's super easy to figure out what verbiage and what state of mind that that person is in.
Mhm.
And as soon as you feel that desperation, you're like, okay, swipe, continue. Like, I don't
Yep.
want to watch this because it's bringing you, pulling you down rather than speaking from that abundant state of mind.
It's like walking on a used car sales lot. You just instantly feel
Yeah.
like you feel that energy being pulled on and you're like, "No, like, stop."
Oh, you know,
Same thing
get out of
happens
here.
in the comments, same thing happens in any sort of VSL, online video, YouTube video. We know it. We instinctively know that. The
Mhm.
thing is people kind of like knowing it and like liking it. That's when you've hit like the sweet spot when they're getting sold to and they're like, "Hell yeah," that's the good spot.
How do you know when it's a good spot? Is that gonna be from, like, calls booked? Is that gonna just be from interactions with the post? Like, where are your telltale signs for that?
It depends on your KPIs. Like obviously we always want sales. So if sales are converting, cool. I always am thinking very long term. So I want
Mm,
repeat customers. I want clients who are with me for 2, 3 years. How am I going to keep them long term? So with low ticket items, you don't have to be that long term. It's not a long term kind of investment. So you can leverage more base emotions, more basic level emotions because you're not trying to make them a follower for life per se, especially if you're selling a product. You're just selling a one-time thing. If you want like dying fans, you've got to bring that emotional level up way high and get them into it from the positive place. You can sell a lot of stuff with FOMO, you can sell a lot of stuff with fear, but that's not going to create repeat customers because people are going to buy, but they're going to still feel that ickiness versus if you sell higher ticket items or a recurring service or something that requires that you want a long-term relationship, you're going to have to use abundance and like inspiration and joy and love, which is much harder to do. Takes a lot more touch points to do, but if you can get them locked in, then they become like mom fans to where anything you do, they'll love you for it and they'll rah-rah you, they'll repost everything, they'll engage. So yeah, if you're just getting purchases, okay, like that's a great hit. But how do I take those very basic people and bring them deeper into your ecosystem? And it's through more deeper emotional touch points. So if I get that first purchase, and I want to accelerate them up to maybe a higher ticket or to a longer term subscription model, that I'm going to be hitting them with emotional follow up and more. I'm going to give them a lot more upfront to pull them into
Mhm.
that deeper relationship with me. And then engagement becomes the true KPI at that point. Because if they're communicating with me, if they're commenting, if they're in my DMs and they're buying everything and then they start resharing my stuff, that's when I know, like, okay, this is hot client, hot lead that I can basically turn into a lifetime acquisition at that point.
Interesting, interesting. I know that what you brought up earlier from your social media, like everyone was just kind of like, yeah, duh, of course you're starting your own business. But for those clients that join with you and they have to make that switch from maybe they posted a lot about from coming from a scarcity mindset and like that kind of lack. How do you get their post? Do you just automatically switch over to that abundance mindset and then just rip it from there? How do you have that transition where it's just not like, what's going on with this person? Like, why have all of a sudden this massive shift?
Usually we just switch cold turkey. Like with my
Yeah.
bigger guy, we just start. We go, hey, this is it now, like get over it kind
Yeah.
of thing. Because a lot of their followers, especially if they have massive followings, and I say massive, like a quarter million followers, maybe they started at the beginning of Instagram, they probably have fake. They probably bought followers to a degree, because that was the thing to do. That's what all the experts were telling you to do in the very beginning. So some people did that. Some people bought followers. Some people did all those different kinds of things. So I don't care if we lose followers at that rate. It's kind of like when you clean up your email list, it makes your rates go up much better. When you get people unsubscribed that have been dead on your list, you want those people off. You want those people that don't open your emails off your list, just like you want your fake followers gone. And if
Hmm.
they're not in line with what you're doing, they're not your ideal client. So, like, you don't want them there anyways. So, a lot of guys who have the bigger followings and are more established will just make that switch. If it's a smaller, like 7,000, 5,000 followers, we're going to be a lot more careful with those because those are going to be people they care about. And we want to transition them over. We want to try to save them because those are usually already highly engaged individuals. So if we
Hmm.
help them in the transition and make them feel like they own part of that process, they're potentially going to buy more. So if we like say, which color should I choose for my new rebanding? Even if you've already decided what color it is, let them feel like they can vote on it. We do that a lot with books. So when I'm writing books, even if the book is finished, we make posts that encourage the follower base to engage in the creating process, and have them vote on covers, again, because they'll feel obligated to buy if they felt involved.
Yeah. Interesting. So it depends on, of course, the person they're following. And then you transition if someone's a little bit smaller. So you can hold on and grasp onto what you currently have built up.
Yeah, because even
Very
if those
interesting.
people aren't buyers, you can train them to become great resources and affiliates.
Hmm. Absolutely. Percent. So I know one thing also that you pull into a lot of your copy is truth when it comes to your messaging and how you speak. So how do you get someone to start? So I feel like a lot of, especially nowadays, social media is 110% fabricated. Like 99% of what you're seeing online is not very truthful.
Yeah,
What like some small changes that people can make to become more truthful and how does that impact
yeah.
how they're showing up?
I think you gotta realize that truth doesn't mean, like, your deepest, darkest secrets, like, nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know that. No, and so they'll automatically go, "Oh my god, the truth is I hate myself," and da da, and they're crying on their Instagram story. Stop, like, nobody cares, stop it. Truth is my desk is insanely messy, and me showing that. Or truth is my dogs will come busting in here and start barking during a podcast. Don't edit it out. Let it flow because they're going to hear the dog barking in the background. They're go, oh, I have a dog too. Now they like you and trust you even more because there's
Mm,
relatability there. So truth in this sense and in this context means relatability. And like my ads guy was talking to me about this and he's like, okay, you're really good at educating. You're really good at posting a bunch of like educational resources and business stuff. He's like, but you like never post about your life anymore, about you. And I'm like, well, like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And he's like, yeah, so tell us about that. And so like I need to make another video, but I've been documenting my process of coming off my SSRI, which is a serotonin inhibitor. And it like releases a lot more emotions in me. And it's like, can be messy, but it's also like blown the gates open on my creativity to where I'm far more creative. I'm far more empathetic, far more engaging. So I've like given the very like digestible version of that in like these videos that I sprinkle throughout in between my educational and business content. And
mm.
those, of course, get the more responses. Those, of course, get people wanting to work with me. Those are the ones that got all the ratings. And my ads guy was like, see, I told you. Again, I'm not telling like anything out of lack. I'm sharing of like, hey, this has been my experience. It's been wild. And, you know, it's not every single day, it's every couple weeks.
Yeah. So you said every couple weeks, but so one thing that you brought up is how you're coming off your SSRI and it's causing you to have more emotions, which have increased your creativity. And it seems like there's a correlation there. Creativity and the ability to do all the things that you do come from the emotions that are invoked in you. When it comes to someone who tends to be on the less emotional side. So someone where maybe you were fully on your SSRIs, sort of like just dampened feelings. How do you pull out those emotions so that you're still able to write and step into that context that you're supposed to be in when it comes to that creative like flow?
Yeah, when I was most numbed out, so like, I mean, I started on 20 milligrams, I'm down to 4. So when I was like completely numbed out, I would be a lot more observant and a lot
Mm,
more curious. So it was more very technical in my approach, to where I'm like, oh, when I say this, your eyebrow goes up, or when I use this tone, you smile. And it's like, okay. And so it's more looking for those cues, kind of like a agent negotiator person would. And it's just being very like, to be a good writer, you have to have strong observational skills and you have to be able
mm,
to like document those details really quickly. Same with
yeah,
social work, which is where I learned how to do that. So, yeah, if you're not tapped into emotions or you're not someone that normally feels things, one, I would suggest start practicing feeling things.
yeah,
And two,
important.
become wildly observant, like every single detail. And if you see something in someone, see if you can make them do it again. So, like if I notice somebody's doing something, I'll try to say something or architect my sentence to where I can get that response from them again. And I'm like, okay, that's a pattern. And so I log that away of like, oh, that's a good thing. Or, oh, they didn't like that?
Yeah.
So you have to be really like outside yourself, if you don't have that emotion happening.
Yeah, interesting. It's kinda like when you were saying CIA agent, as soon as you started talking about it, I was like, it's like she became a mad scientist on humans and their little, like, ticks. Like,
Yeah.
every time you say a sentence, their response, and you kinda, like, mentally log it. I was listening to a podcast with, it was the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett and, Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins was talking about pattern recognition, just like how you brought up and how important it is to learn this stuff, and you've taken it to that scale where it's like even pattern recognition and the way that people react to
Mhm.
how and what you're talking about.
Yeah, because
Very
even when
interesting.
I'm ghostwriting, I'm interviewing the person and I'm asking them to go back to potentially very painful moments in their history or moments they're not proud of or, very highly emotional moments. And they all start off because they're mostly men. They all start off like, that's, not me. And because I give them a little speech of like, hey, sometimes after our sessions, make sure you've got some extra time because you
Yeah.
might need to decompress or you might need to like care of yourself because it
Mhm.
might get emotional. And they're like, "Wah, wah, wah, wah." Yeah, they bawl their eyes out during these things. And so I have to be able to manage their emotions over Zoom, bring them back into the present because I might trigger PTSD in them. I might trigger a panic attack. I mean, I've had to de-escalate them constantly during these calls. And so it's my job to really protect them because I've led them into this vulnerable space. So it's really
Yeah.
my job to protect them while they're there and take really good care of them and make them feel very safe.
Mhm. No, that's kind of why I asked, because since you work with so many men, men are typically a lot less emotional than women when it comes to just in like, just the way that they perceive things, and so I found it very interesting that you're writing from this emotional state that typically men find it a little bit more so difficult to get into. Um,
Mhm.
Crazy that you made a lot of grown men cry, Amanda.
Yep. One way or another.
One way or
Um,
another.
no.
No,
I mean,
that's such an interesting thing. Yeah, continue.
I'm much more of a direct communicator. I'm very much in my masculine a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
which
I've
makes
tried to
sense.
write for women, and it's so difficult for me unless it's somebody, a female, who's very much in her masculine, very much alpha, very much direct.
Uh-huh.
This year, I've been learning that I hurt a lot of men's feelings. And then I've also been learning, like, the trade-off between men are allowed
Mm,
to communicate directly and they're applauded for their clear communication versus when a woman communicates clearly, she's a bitch. And so
mm,
that's just the way it is, whether
mhm,
I like it or not. So I've gotta decide if I'm okay with being that person and being like, "Yeah, okay, like, I really don't care if you don't like me as long as we're making the money." Or if it's somebody I need to handle a little bit more delicately and be a little bit softer when presenting them with that truth.
mhm.
'Cause, yeah, I hurt feelings. I've had to have a couple come to Jesus moments already this past week.
This week, this past
Yeah,
week, it's very soon.
but I like, listen, I'm not here to be a yes man. Like, I respect you too much and you have too much potential for me to waste your time that way.
Yeah,
So put on your big boy pants, let's go.
yeah. No, 110%, and it makes sense. It as you're speaking, it makes perfect sense as to why you attract the clients at which you do, because you are that, like, more direct authority figure, so naturally, guys are gonna be like, "Her, she's my
Mhm.
girl. She's my
Yep,
girl," because they can
yep.
relate to you in that standpoint. Very interesting. I love it. So I want to bring it to branding and like positioning and clarity when it comes to someone's brand and just understanding when people have their positioning off, especially in relation to themselves. So when you look at someone's brand for the first time, what is your like biggest like red flag or key giveaway that their positioning and who they are is a little bit off?
If it's boring, like if
Boring.
it's
Okay.
fun, then you're not being honest because
Mm,
humans are boring. We're very diverse, very layered beings. And so
yeah.
if you are playing it safe and if you're lying to yourself or if you're covering something, you are going to be vanilla and boring.
Mm,
And if I can't get you to be honest, then we won't be able to do anything worth doing.
no.
Then you probably
You
won't make money either because you're not being honest about what you really want or what you really want to do or who you really are.
find that people are afraid because going back to like even like the oversharing, because now we're like kind of on a timeline. You have one side where it's like too much, and you're like, okay, you don't need to be telling everyone this. You don't need to put your news out on Front Street. But there's that other side where it's like people are too, I guess, they have too many walls up, and then they're too afraid to say the truth and be honest and naturally just let themselves shine online for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And then, like you said, that they're too vanilla, too boring, too like mundane, so to speak. How do you find that that hurts? I You probably have seen it in your clients, but their own brand presence. Like what what's the in that shift, like what changes drastically with their audience, etc.
First, they'll lose a bunch of followers.
Mm,
They'll get a bunch of "Are you okay?" like,
yeah.
texts and stuff. And so I'm like, "Listen, there's gonna be a mass exodus when we first do this. You're gonna have people who won't like it, but then that means you're doing something right." And then after we get over that initial cleaning house and audit kind of phase, then we start seeing people, they get, "Oh my god, you changed my life when you made this post," or "You have no idea how much that meant to me," or "I've been following you for years, but, like, today I decided to message you, and I never do this." They always say crap like that. And it's like you get a bunch of those kind of messages flowing through, and
Mhm.
that's when you know things are hitting the way they should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that timeline kinda looking like? Does it completely vary depending on the client, or is, like, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months? What have you
I mean,
seen?
I've seen it happen, like, freaking overnight, where it's like a dam bursting and people are like, "Thank God you finally said it," or like, "Yes, this is exactly where you belong." Like, you've had people, like, come along and affirm immediately. So I've seen it,
Mhm.
like, where it's very rapid, but
Wow.
then the people that are learning to step into it and are a little bit more cautious, that's gonna be a little bit of a slower cadence because there is like, I work with a lot of very high net worth individuals. So you have to be pretty freaking careful. It's not just a brand,
Yeah.
it's the whole company. Um, so and then like I've worked with lawyers, I've worked with doctors, I've worked, financial institutions. So there is like this we have to keep authority. And it's like, cool. Like there's one thing if you're going to go the full, like, luxury, high level position, then you have to have a lot of money in order to execute because everything has to be top notch. You can
Mhm.
still be funny, you can still be a human, you can still be highly empathetic, like, let's engage those higher level emotions. But if you're not that, then you can be slightly cringe, you can be slightly unhinged, and what you think is cringe is probably yes, it's probably where you need to be. I always encourage people to look at other people in the industry and be like, well, like one of my guys, he's a luxury real estate developer, very stoic. And he loves Ryan Serhant. He's like, he's built an incredible business. He's very fixed. I'm like, yeah, he's amazing. Go look at his content. He is silly. They are doing ridiculous stuff all the time. And I'm like, listen,
Mhm.
I'm not saying you got to be like him, but, like, can you, like, just try, and then where you land will be a little bit shorter of Ryan, and then we'll have good content, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes. It
and
I
even
was
better
going to
when
add continue.
no, when I'm
Go
with
for
a
it.
client in person,
Yeah.
I remember I brought along one of my mentees, and he was listening
And
to me. He's like, "You're berating this guy. Like, you are basically arguing with him," and, like, just I was just going at him, and I'm like, "Because
yeah.
that's the only way you can get good content out of him, is because I gotta
Yeah.
shock him into a space to where he reacts instead of where he's just thinking about the perfect response."
Mhm.
So if I'm with them in person, I'll usually be super sassy or say super inappropriate things or berate them because I'm trying to break them out of this like perfect picture frame version of themselves.
Yeah, immediately what I think of is, like, kinda like sales, like, where people come in up as a wall, and then you have to break down that wall to finally get to that, like, center point that is actually the true reason or the true purpose behind it. You're just doing it in a different context, which is very interesting, and it makes perfect sense as well. I was gonna ask you, like, what it now I'm blanking. My brain. The authority, like, a lot of people assume, like, the authority is, like, this stoic, like you said, like,
Mhm.
picture perfect person, but that was a great example with Ryan Serhant, and you answered that question
Yeah.
immediately because
And you
you're
don't think
100%
that
right.
guy like there's no thought in your head of like this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
No.
Same with, gosh, there's so many of them. Like even Gary Vee, he curses like crazy. He's kind of like aggressive in his tone. He
Yeah.
doesn't dress I don't think I've ever seen him in a suit. But he got there by being himself consistently and you'll rally people when you're self like so I did a test, right? I'm sorry, I'm going
Yeah.
off on this, but I'm passionate about
No,
it.
go for it. Pop up.
I did it because and I actually did it to prove to show a client, and,
Yeah.
they're scared about niching down and specifically saying who their ideal client is. And so I'm like, "Alright, we'll do a test with my Instagram since you won't do it." So I put in my bio that I only serve male info services or male owners or founders, but it was directly, like, only male. Within, like, 3 days, my inbox was full of, like, alpha females who were, like, begging me to work with them because of that. Because they're like, "No, I only work with men too. Like, I'm just like you." It created, like, such a magnet for that. And I'm like, "See, when you niche down, you actually get more. You don't get less." And they were awesome. I worked with some of them. Like, some of them made the cut for me and some of them I could write for, and then the other ones I referred to another writer that could do a better job. But I'm like, "No, when you are who you are, when you say what you want, when you're freaking honest, it's only gonna create more real, honest, true interactions and engagement.
Yeah. Authority seems to be stemmed directly from the truth of showing up as yourself on social media, not necessarily authority as in like I'm this picture perfect AI version of me, so to speak.
Yeah.
That brings
Especially
me a lot
now
of yeah.
Especially
No,
now because
100%.
of AI. Like, people don't want anything picture perfect. Like, before when social media first started, we were all very drawn to the picture perfect stuff because we never had access to celebrities or brands to that level, and we're like, "Oh my god, they're still perfect when they wake up." We're super dumb, right?
Yeah.
Now we all know, like, that's fake. Yeah, now we all know that's not true. And now even with AI and these like perfect things, the goal is no longer to write the perfect article because I've been accused of AI. Like, I use AI, but, like, I've been accused of, like, "That's AI," and I'm like, "Oh, no, I wrote that." Like, for real, for real. So you can't write too perfect, you can't create too perfect graphics, you can't edit your video too much because people are so, like, lacking in trust, they'll automatically assume it's not real. So you actually want some of that grit, some of that dirt mixed in so that
Yeah.
it's affirming, like, "No, this is authentic and real."
Mm. And that's I have seen a huge shift, especially because Mike now, he's been posting like 6 times a day, and all of his stuff now is very much authentic. He's just walking in the office, and I see him walk by and then again and again, and he's blowing up because of it. And it's just the, like, authenticity of who Mike is and being able to show up as himself, which is what's causing that, which is really cool to have that affirmation as well, in a sense of people want to see the real true you because now we have this pendulum where it was swinging to the perfect and now it's like, okay, no, no, no. We just want real. We want raw, true, real you.
Yeah, yeah, no more
Makes it a lot easier.
filters. For real, then you can just pump out those selfie videos like crazy and people get addicted. Like, now that he's posted more, obviously he's so much more in my feed, but like
Yeah.
now I look for him because it's almost like a Netflix show that I'm binging. I'm binging Mike now. And it's slightly annoying and not at the same time.
It's so funny. That's hilarious. I see him all the time too, and I'm like, Mike, can I not get like one day? No,
I
I love
always
seeing
like
his content.
it's funny because the psychology behind it, like he would always on his stories, he always records his egg flip where he flips his eggs in his pan.
Yes, he got
And
me to do
so
that actually.
So I started and so what it did to me subconsciously because of his consistency, I consistently started rating him and responding
Mm,
to his story every single day. I'd be like, that was a 6. And I would just say the number. I wouldn't say anything else. And so now I have to show up and rate his egg.
yeah,
And it's
it's
this
now created
weird
a habit in
habit.
your life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's just weird, and
interesting.
so, just if you think about the psychology that went behind that, I'm sure that wasn't his intention, he just was doing it, and then I just started doing it, and now we just have this, like, symbolic relationship to where I'm rating his egg flip every morning, and if he doesn't flip his eggs, I'm like, "Where are your eggs? Like, I need the egg flip so I can rate it,"
Yeah,
or if I don't show up rating it, he's probably like I don't know if he is, but where is Amanda rating my egg flip? I wonder if she thinks it's a 10 or not. It creates this weird sort of interaction engagement, and people crave that consistency because it
mhm.
feels familiar and it feels like stability.
Yeah. One thing that as you're speaking, what popped into my mind is now it has caused you to have a habit of thought when it comes to Mike, which causes Mike to be the forefront of your mind, which is every marketer's dream to be the
Yeah.
forefront of their client's mind. So niche yourself into egg flips, guys. No kidding.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
find
and
your
it's like,
thing.
how can you attach yourself? And this is always something I'm thinking of when I'm doing marketing and outreach and lead generation is how can
Yeah.
I show up in places in people's minds or in person where my competitors are not, but where they go consistently so that I can live in their mind outside of just the thing I'm selling.
Mm,
Mike did that to
mhm.
me. So if you think about, okay, well, my thing is like moms, if you're a personal trainer, and your ideal client are moms, well, where else are moms showing up other than the gym? Like, are they showing up at Bible study? Are they showing up at soccer games? Well, then your ass better be at the soccer games, handing out little box wines or, something that they would appreciate, you know,
Yeah.
and being different and showing up in a space again where your competitors are not, you'll be able to live in their mind rent free.
Yeah. I do. That's a very interesting way to flip the script. And I like how you also brought up in-person stuff. 'Cause, like, a
Yeah.
lot of coaches I even see, like, speaking to coaches here, but they don't do any in person. I'm like, "Where did this all start? In-person training. Why don't we go
Hmm.
back to that? Go to a coffee shop. Go do something outside of just at your
Yeah.
computer."
Yeah.
Which also adds the
Something
dimension, but
I told my buddy because he's like only wanted to do in-person training. I'm like, that's great. So what you need to do is you need to meet up with all your local Airbnb people. You need to find out who those people are, maybe rent one of their places for a night, and then be like, hey, if you offer my personal training to those people, because a lot of people they want to keep their normal schedules. So if they
Mhm.
travel to have a personal trainer also show up at your Airbnb and be like, hey, it's time for your personal training session. Let's go, that would be such a great, like, differentiator for the Airbnb and for them as a personal trainer. Like, it creates such a cool dynamic,
Like,
even have
yeah.
that option. So it's like, yeah, how can you show up in person? But then also, how can you show up in person in, again, places that they don't expect you but still need you?
Yeah. Just really thinking you have to really be good. And I think one of our biggest clients, his name is Jared Hamilton. You may or may not know him. He is like, I look at him and I'm like, you have niche down so well where he's like, he's gone into the psychology of the psychology for his ideal client. Like, I don't even know how he does it because he knows like their deepest, darkest secrets before he's, let's put it this way, in his emails, he's brought up on at one of our lead summits that he would write emails to his ideal clients, and he specifically targets women. Their husbands thought that their wives were cheating on them with Jared because Jared knew their deepest, darkest secrets, and they're like, "He doesn't know me. I don't even work with him."
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's
top
awesome.
notch.
That's like
You would
God
love
level.
it.
It's
Yes.
brilliant.
Yeah. But you really just have to know who you're speaking to. So,
Hmm.
and that kind of goes back to where you were talking about where you're speaking to 5 years ago or like 2 to 3 years ago
Yeah,
to yourself.
yeah. Or like in
Where
that
did
case,
yeah.
you could
Oh,
be
continue, go for it.
Jared. You could ask Jared, like, hey, I don't know if he's married, but he would be pulling on his wife, or he'd be pulling on his sister or his girlfriend or
Mm,
whatever, and be like, what is your thought process? And like using them if he didn't, it sounds like he's got a great touch point on it. But if you're like, man, I want to be like Jared, that's what I would suggest, going to sounding boards like that or Reddit forums where women are discussing those kind of things.
okay. So if you're not your ideal client, men targeting women, women and targeting men, you would just go into those specific areas and start asking questions and start figuring out their psychology and get that pattern recognition, like what you were talking about earlier, down pat, so that you can start to also speak to them like them and
Hmm.
go from there. Very
Hmm.
interesting. Very cool. Very cool. A lot of psychology. I'm so interested to all of the psychology tips and tricks that you know. Do you have any specific ones that like you use in just like your day to day?
I mean, kinda like going back to the AI check-ins kind of thing, like, I always am constantly trying to be very strategic about those messages
Yeah.
when I cold DM people, so, like, even with Mike, I structured the framework for that message, for those emails as, like, a frame break. I break a lot of rules in that most people will tell you never price drop in DMs, never tell people, like, directly what you're here to do. I mean, the guys I'm trying to get, they do not have time to sit there and try to, like, figure out what the hell I'm trying to say. So the nicest thing you can do is be clear in your communication. So I'm like, "Hey, broke my toe, hurricane's coming to wipe me out, but I still wanna write for you. I'm a copywriter. What do you think would work for you?" or whatever, and open-ended questions. So, like, I'm always thinking about how can I create a buyer state in them. So I need to break their frame, get attention, and then I need to make them laugh or have some sort of serotonin, dopamine, or oxytocin release in their system. So that comes through entertainment, connection, or making them laugh. And so when you have all three of those, you have the like echelon of buyer state. And that long-term buyer because you've made them feel good about what they've done. And you won't have buyer's remorse afterwards because you're basing the whole conversation off this very positive interaction. I think it's also really important as far as my position in any sort of like marketing or sales or writing situation. Like I am on display from the very first message. I'm actually showing you what it's like if I wrote for you. Like you're getting like a front row seat to like how good am I at sales? How good am I actually at writing? And so
Yeah.
most of the time when I cold DM a lead and they engage, I very rarely have to show them my portfolio and they hire me before they've seen anything because they've experienced it. And so
Wow.
how could we get that to happen? Think about how can you have your client somehow experience you before they ever pay you? And then they'll feel like they know you and that will get them to buy.
A lot of the amount of value that you just packed into that little bit, it really opened my eyes, truthfully, because a lot of the time when I was doing outreach, when I tried to start my own business 3.5 years ago, I had I was obviously very young, did not understand writing or copy, but the first message at which you send out, and I feel like a lot of people lack this because my DMs are filled with like cold DMs from copywriters or social media people, and they're so generic, and it never captures my attention. I'm like, okay, just another one, just another one. But you put so much time and effort into that first message. It's kind of like a hook in your content.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
it
That's
that first
that's
message is
80%.
so important.
Yeah, 80 cents of that dollar when you're writing always needs to go to the subject line or the hook or the beginning sentence.
That first sentence. Very yeah, that just, again, blew my mind. I don't even know what to say to that. That was awesome. Thank you very much for that.
If you
When it
struggle
Oh,
if
yeah.
you struggle with that, reverse your process. So go ahead and write whatever the rest like the body of the email or whatever you're writing, and then come back and be like, "How could I sum this up in one sentence or 5 words?" And the shorter the better. The more words you can delete, the better. How can I sum this up in that amount of words and create curiosity or create a hook loop or make it like a tabloid that would get them to read all the way to the end? And so
Yeah.
you write the whole thing, you can usually get that out, and then you come back and you work on that subject line or that preview text or that hook until it gets super saucy.
Yeah. No, 100%. Can I ask you, I mean, now you're probably very good at it, so it takes you significantly less time, but when it comes to, like, when you first started outreaching and cold DMing people and you crack the code to how you curate this first message, how long does it take you to do that? And do you do that specifically for every client, or do you use kind of like a copy that goes to a few different people depending on, like, who they are and how they show up? How long does it take you to curate that first message? Because there's so much that goes into it. There's the value, there's also, like, pattern break, pattern recognition. I just feel like it would take
No, no.
me 5 years to
Nope.
come up with a message.
Okay, so this is where people always overthink it. I
Yeah.
literally go, "What am I doing right now?" Or, "What did I just do?" And that's gonna be
Okay.
my first sentence. So that was like when I
Interesting.
wrote, "I just broke my toe, I just got done hanging up hurricane shutters." Literally, that's what I just did. I'd broken my toe that day at the gym, I dropped a
Okay.
45-pound plate on it while doing legs, and then I had to come home and hang up hurricane shutters because there was a hurricane directly coming towards us. That was literally that day. And I've done that before with other messages of like, I just chowed down on some Chinese food. It was pretty terrible, but I'm hoping that this message is gonna, turn my night around. You just
Something.
say literally what's happening and then you pull them into it. So even like that one that I just said, of I just ate some terrible Chinese food, hoping that you can help me turn my night around. Now I'm involving them in my happiness. And everybody
Mm.
wants to make everybody else feel better. Like, yeah, I wanna make your night feel better, so of course I'm gonna engage with you even if I'm not interested. Now no, no, okay, I can be nice instead of just say "F
Yeah.
off" or, whatever. It'll really frame how they respond to you if you involve them emotionally. I mean,
100%.
it's just I literally say whatever I'm doing right then and there, and that's been my scapegoat for the past, freaking 5 years is how I've been cold DMing people or messaging people. So there's not a lot. It's just like I kinda just stumbled upon it. My dad is a brilliant public speaker, marketer. I mean, he is so brilliant. I used to watch The Office because he reminds me of Michael Scott so much. I used to watch The Office when I was homesick living in California. I'd watch it to feel closer to my dad. So if you can imagine this Michael Scott character, he is constantly breaking frames. That's my father. So I got all that. I was basically, he had me public speaking when I was 5 years old. There's a video of me doing poisonous snakes presentation to his work. Like, so they raised me to be this. So unfortunately for the rest of the world, my parents created this monster that is, but if you go watch my YouTube videos, you too can be this good.
Yes. I will be there. I will be there because I am so curious. And also, one thing that I did pick up too from both examples between breaking your toe and then the Chinese food, it's also a visual, which is like people can picture and paint that picture in their head. It's like I just broke my toe and I'm hanging up shutters, or I'm eating Chinese food and it really sucks. So you can turn my night around. Like if you respond with this message, like something that like, and that's a pattern recognition with, or not a pattern recognition, a break of frame right
Yeah.
there, which is really
Because
cool.
if I just said, oh, I just finished eating dinner, that's like not as visual of I just had some really greasy lo mein and it's making me feel icky, but I'm hoping that this is going to be the point that turns my night around. Way
And
more
everyone
engaging.
that
Exactly. Relatable, visual, engaging.
you're done.
Yeah,
You're going to
you're mine.
business is to the moon, guys, to the moon. I love it. Few more questions for you. But I kind of want to go into like just some problem awareness that you're seeing with people, or like how to even notice, because a lot of people will create their own messaging and their own copy and they're like, this is awesome, this rocks. And it just never hits and they don't know what they're doing wrong. So, with that being said, do you have any like rules or concepts that you try to keep consistent in all copy that you do, because that those are like the core foundational things that help writers write.
Yeah. Storytelling is always going to win. So always try to storytell.
Yeah.
I really honed this skill a couple years ago on LinkedIn. I started looking at the week before when I'd go to write posts. I'd look at what had happened the week before and I'd pull a lesson from every single day of like, oh, I was
Mm,
in this meeting and this happened, or oh, I was writing this and I had this thought, or oh, my dog chewed the table because I wasn't paying attention. And I would turn that into some sort of lesson, some sort of business lesson, some sort of value or funny story. And that would be my post every single day. If you can make everyday things entertaining or engaging, you got to practice though. You got to put in the reps. Those posts did amazing. Those posts got me so many clients. Just and I wasn't even selling anything. I was just storytelling. And people would literally message me on LinkedIn and say, I love how you write. I love your tonality. I love your style. Can you please write like that for me? Yeah, I can.
mm,
It's how I write. So of course I can, So storytelling and practicing storytelling is really important. And then always keep it benefits focused. So not getting sucked into listing features or wins or being like, you can lose 20 pounds. Usually like those things are so emotionally, I'm so disengaged from that emotional outcome that I can't even connect to losing 20 pounds. So it's like,
mhm,
put your jeans on without having to jump into them and feel confident on date night. Imagine walking into your closet and everything fits, having too many outfits to choose from because you look so good in all of them. What? That sounds amazing. That's way more emotional. So it's benefits focused instead of data focus. Like take the data.
mhm,
Okay, well, what does that feel like? What does that actually look like if it was played out in a movie scene? And writing from that space is going to get you
mhm,
much higher conversions. And then just
mm,
writing like a freaking human. Like AI is great. I love it. I use it every single day. I actually even have my own AI copywriting bot, but you have to, it's not human. It's very good at compiling and condensing and gathering data. It's great tool. It is not the end all. It is not the writer. You are the writer. And your human, like salt bayness of your human and your soul is what's going to be the make or break, whether it's gonna convert or not. It's not the AI, it's not the prompt, it's you. So
Yeah.
if you don't show up in your writing, then that's why it's not converting.
Yeah. You're the creator, you gotta create, you gotta
Yeah,
build.
yeah,
Simple as that. Simple
yeah.
as that. Very last question for you because as you know, AR is full of automations and you kind of brought this up from the last question when it comes to like how to not like how to write better. But because we use so many automation, I guess this question is kind of also selfishly for me a little bit, but how do you like I don't know if you personally utilize automation, but any of your clients, how do you make those automations sound so natural and so humanistic specifically because they're all going to be coming after a specific action or a specific trigger and I feel like everyone knows nowadays that automations are a thing. So how do we mask that even further and to be
Mhm,
more human?
mhm. Yeah, I just imagine when I go to write I use automations constantly. I freaking love
Love it.
go high level. I love automations. I love it all.
Me too.
So I just when I go to write them, I go, "Well, what would this look like over coffee?" Or what would this look like, if I was standing outside smoking a cigar with one of the guys? Like, how would this conversation actually go down?
Yeah.
That and then we transfer
And
it
it
on to paper. So
yeah.
even when we write, the messages or the auto response, like you'll capitalize the first word, right? Because it automatically does that in text. So then, you write the rest like you would text it to a buddy. Like it doesn't take a lot of overthinking. Just like strip it back down to what would this look like if this was conversation was happening in a bar, or what would this conversation look like over a coffee, or if I was texting one of my friends. Like literally sit in your phone and I've done that to where I've sat on my phone because I like also writing in the platform that it's going to be delivered in, so I can see what it looks like. And so I'll be like, "Oh, that's a little bit too long. Okay, how can I make this shorter?" Or, I need to delete some words. So just write it like you're talking to a human. Like it's not that
Yeah.
complicated.
No, 100%. I think it's a lot of we overcomplicate it in our minds and we're like, "Oh, this has to be perfect because it's gonna be sent out to a bunch of different people," and it's like, "No, create those imperfections." Even in
Yeah.
our automations, there's a few places where we strategically place, like, misspellings of words because then we correct it after, and then that's a staccato message, you get the human touch and the whole 9 yards, but it's cool to hear you a lot of the things that you've brought up and a lot of like, if we were to sizzle this entire podcast down into, like, a few different takeaways, it's like, we need to tap into, like, our emotional state of mind and visualize not only, like, where these people are, but also, like, how we would be speaking in these scenarios as well. Like, literally sit down, close your eyes, and, like, "Okay, how would I do this if I was there right now?" And really picture yourself in that environment.
Yeah, so that's a lot of my writing process is like I'll almost imagine it like a movie scene. And then I'll
Mhm.
pause the scene and I'll kind of like look around in the scene and be like, what are the details? Like what color is your nail polish? What does it smell like? Can I feel the carpet? What temperature is the room? Like I'll tap into all my senses and then I'll pick and choose what details are like very realistic and very relatable or the little
Yeah.
odd ones.
Yeah.
Because then there's certain like things that you can do to be like, okay, let me think of an example really quick. Um, like, wealthy people always carry cash,
Mhm.
so they can tip because they're usually generous individuals. Um, People who aren't wealthy never carry cash ever. So I might mention that they could feel like the thickness of their wallet when they sat down, and I'm
Mm.
alluding that he's wealthy. Because it's like, okay, if we follow that whole train of process all the way back through, we can
Yeah.
find different truths within those details. And you're subconsciously communicating those things. So
Mm.
you can say things without actually saying it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just by alluding to different textures or
Yeah.
feelings that you would be feeling. That wow, that takes it to I'm just thinking like, "Oh, if I was" like what you were saying earlier, like smoking a cigar, but you're taking it down to the nitty-gritties of, like, even just sitting down and what you're feeling in your pockets to
Mhm.
allude to a specific emotion or a specific person.
Well, and
That is next
the c
level
the
visualization.
cigar thing, as I said it, I was like, "Ooh, that's wrong," because anybody who actually is really into smoking cigars would never smoke a cigar outside. They would be at a cigar lounge. So I'm like, "Oop, that's wrong." And so anybody who is a cigar person would read that and go like, "What the f" Like, no, then I would
You
lose
don't smoke
them.
cigarettes.
But
Yep.
I would capture all the people who are poor or don't go to cigar bars or who go to 7-Eleven to get their cigars and smoke them out, you know? Like, there's a whole identity thing with how you interact with certain things in the world and what it says about you. So even
Absolutely.
I said that, I was like, "Nope, that's wrong." I just like, that's not my ideal client is what I just thought because I've done so many meetings at cigar bars too, so
Wow, that's so cool. Again, next level. You're so very impressive, Amanda. I am absolutely mind blown on your talent to be able to do all this stuff because it is a different frame of mind that I know I for sure do not have. I can definitely build up the skill to be able to tap
yeah,
into a
yeah,
degree of that. But
yeah.
it's so impressive the specific characters that you target and how well you're you're like the female version of Jared Hamilton where you are able to completely tap into your ideal client and know every little detail, even to the point of feeling their wallet in their back pocket.
I mean, that's the difference
Coolest
between
ever.
good and great. It's a very
Yeah,
small margin, and it's my goal to be a great writer. That's
yeah.
what I want. So, it's those kind of details that go a really long way, and yeah, it's really hard for me to receive that, but thank you.
No, you're so very welcome. I know. I mean it in the best possible way because it's like it just shows how you are great. You are already at that point. Like, of course, you see yourself and you're probably like, oh, there's so much more room to grow. But coming from someone that is 10 years behind you in your skill set, looking at you and like being able to understand where you're coming from, but not be able to do that is incredible. So again, it's an honor to be able to speak to you about all this stuff because you are definitely in that 1%. But let me ask you this one final question before we end off this podcast today. Is there anything that comes to your mind that you want to leave for the audience that is listening in today when it comes to copywriting, maybe just even just creativity or visioning your ideal client, but any last tips or tidbits that you wanna leave us off?
Yeah, I think if you want to immediately accelerate your brand, your business, your copywriting, your client retention, your lead generation, is you gotta be freaking authentic and be insanely human. So relatability is the highest sought after characteristic. And so like I would just encourage you to spend time with yourself in the quiet and see what's going on inside of you. The best writers are very if you can structure something written, it's because your mind is very structured. So I always
Mhm.
know when somebody's a hot mess when I see their brand. I'm like, oh, wow, you've got multiple personalities because I'm seeing it being displayed in the way you're branding or not branding, or, it's always a very, very startling mirror of what's going on the inside of a person.
Mm.
So I would encourage you to get organized on the inside and then be super real, authentic, and relatable. And if you can start pushing towards those things, everything else will kind of fall into alignment from there. You'll find that you can come up with these hooks much easier. You'll find that you actually do understand your ideal client much better. And there's like a freedom and a letting go in that.
I love it. Well, thank you so very much, Amanda. It has been such a pleasure once again. Your ability to do everything that you do is incredible, and I'm so super excited to see what other work you come up with, following you on Instagram and everything. Speaking of, what is your Instagram so everyone can go and give you a follow? I will also put it into the show notes.
Yeah, it's Amanda Catarzi, which is my maiden name. So Catarzi, nice Italian name. So
Yes.
there's nobody else that has my name. So yeah, if you get somewhere near that, I'm sure you'll find me.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I'll again put it in the show notes so everyone can go on ahead and give you a follow. But once again, thank you so very much for your time today. It was a pleasure and I got a lot of value out of it. And I know a lot of people who are going to watch as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.